On today's episode of You Asked, LG G5 or Samsung S95F? What's a good soundbar for under $400? And why do reviewers tend to lean toward LG OLED over Sony for gaming? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is You Asked, the show where we answer your tech questions. If you've got something you want to know, send your question to youasked@digitaltrends.com. And don't forget to tune into the show to see if your question has been selected. Brandon has the first question, and he says, I recently purchased the Frame Pro from Samsung, but returned it because I didn't like the wireless One Connect box. Now I'm looking at the Samsung S95F or LG G5 instead, and they seem like better performing TVs anyway. I've seen them both in person, and I'm leaning towards Samsung, but wanted other opinions. What do you think? Brandon, I think you've got some top tier options to choose from. Sounds like this TV is going to be in a main space of the house, or at least an area that prioritizes form and function if you're going for a TV like the Frame Pro, which can pass as an art display or TV and can fill the void on the wall with art instead of a blank screen when the TV's off. Now, I've watched plenty of TV on the Frame and don't really have an issue, but I haven't seen the Frame Pro, though I have seen reviews that suggest it's not the best viewing experience. Anyway, I think you're making a great choice, especially if you can use the S95F or G5 in a screensaver mode or display art on the screen another way for parties or gatherings or whatever you're going to use it for. If you like the Frame Pro and the only issue was the wireless One Connect box, then yes, the Samsung S95F makes the most sense. It's still got the matte finish to the screen, and even better, it's a QD OLED panel instead of mini LED. And in general, it's just a much better TV than the Frame Pro for viewing purposes, but you know this. The G5 is obviously a great option as well, and the tandem RGB OLED panel looks gorgeous, but Samsung just makes more sense for you in this case, so hopefully you can find a good deal. Joel says, I currently have a setup with a lot of retro game consoles, but it leaves me with very little room for sound equipment. I don't need anything high-end, but I don't want junk either. I was thinking a small soundbar, but would be open to other ideas. Do you have any suggestions for less than $400? Hey Joel, the retro game setup sounds awesome, and I'd love to know what you're rocking. As far as the best soundbar for under $400, the first one that comes to mind is the Sonos Beam Gen 2 for a few reasons. The first, obviously, meets your price requirement since it's on sale for well under $400 at several retailers right now, but it's also high quality with support for Dolby Atmos, as long as your TV supports it as well, and solid sound overall. We know the quality Sonos brings, and if you were ever able to make space for more, you can use the Beam as an anchor for a full Sonos system. You can add a subwoofer or satellite speakers down the road to make a surround setup with a heavy-hitting bass. But again, for your needs, the Beam has you covered with a much better sound than you'll get from the TV alone. The Sonos Ray is another good option. Instead of running an HDMI cable from the TV to the soundbar, you'll use an optical cable for audio. It doesn't support Dolby Atmos, but you can still get Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS digital surround sound. But again, for your gaming purposes, even if you're not going to use those features, you've got much improved sound. And if you want it to go a lot smaller and cheaper, and if you need something to integrate streaming into your setup and keep things minimal, the Roku Streambar is another solid option. It usually sells for around $100, but I see it on sale, at least as of shooting and editing this video, for around $70. Its size may be most appealing to you, but it also houses 4K streaming capabilities, so if you plan on doing any TV watching in your setup but don't have any more room for a streaming device, this can handle that and improved audio. Now, surely these aren't the only options, they're just the ones that I thought of first, so I would ask everyone if you can send some helpful suggestions Joel's way. We'd appreciate it in the comments. Finally, Sanchit2393, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, says, I've seen many reviewers recommend LG OLED over Sony for gaming. So is Sony lacking in TV technology, or is LG just better? And can you recommend some of the options I could go for? Thanks for the question. To address the first one, no, Sony is certainly not lacking in TV technology, but there are a couple of things that are uniquely Sony that may turn some people off of their TVs for gaming. One is what's known as the Sony tax, which refers to their typically higher prices. They've positioned themselves as premium TV makers, so you'll need to pay a little bit more sometimes for a TV that does essentially the same thing as its LG or Samsung counterparts. For example, depending on your needs, LG makes a significantly less expensive B5 OLED that has its trade-offs for sure, but it comes pretty loaded, all things considered. The other thing that makes LG a better gaming option, depending on your needs, is the 4 HDMI 2.1 ports in premium TVs, whereas Sony is still going with just 2 HDMI 2.1 ports and 2 HDMI 2.0. For gamers that need to connect more than one console or PC and have a soundbar to elevate the audio experience, they're going to run out of HDMI 2.1 ports immediately. One of Sony's HDMI 2.1 ports is dedicated to eARC for advanced audio, leaving you just one other for the console to take advantage of HDMI 2.1 and its increased bandwidth, which allows for those higher frame rates when playing games. Now, outside of that, when it comes to some of the gaming dashboard features and game mode picture, I may not be the one to ask. We typically don't go too deep into the gaming aspects of most TVs. So again, this is where I'd ask for some viewer assistance, answering any questions about why one is better than the other. Still, I can give you a few recommendations based on what I have seen. LG's C-Series TVs, like the C5 for example, are tremendous bang for your buck in terms of brightness and performance. It's a step up from the B5 that I mentioned earlier, though that one is also solid if you don't mind losing a little bit of the pop in HDR. For mini LED TVs, by the numbers, LG's QNED 92A also looks like a good one. Outside of LG and sticking with the minimum qualification of more than 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, I don't think you can go wrong with Samsung either. I love gaming on the QN90C QLED TV, a 2023 model that I have at home, so I think their recent mini LED and OLED options will impress. Hisense also has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports in their U75QG mini LED TV and 3 in their U8QG if you want to save a little more money. That's it for this week, guys. I hope these answers helped a little bit. Also, keep in mind that the holidays are just around the corner. If you've got your eye on a gift for someone, or you're just treating yourself, be sure to get those questions in and we'll do our best to answer. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Elevate your smartphone with the Digital Trends app bundle. 17 premium apps in one plan. From productivity to entertainment, it's all here. Start your free trial today by clicking the link in the description.